I'm going to try and explain how to install paper-faced glass mosaic tile. Now, first things first, you have to use the right kind of adhesive. When installing glass tile, you need to use a high polymer content thinset. You can't use mastic. You can't use a lower quality or a cheap thinset. You need to use a very good quality thinset that's been approved for the installation of glass tile. What I'm using here is white thinset. Now, paper-faced glass tile is transparent. So what that means is you can see right through it. So when you're installing this tile, you need to get 100% coverage on the back of the tile. If you don't achieve the 100% coverage, what's going to happen is you're going to see the thinset behind it shading, or you're going to see lines through it, and it just doesn't look right. So you need to achieve 100% coverage. And the color of the grout matters. You almost always use white thinset. And so how do you achieve this? First of all, you could use a right size trowel. In this case, I'm using a 5/16 inch V-notch trowel. Now, you don't want to use a trowel that's so big that the thinset is going to squeeze through the grout joints of the tile. So you apply your thinset to the wall and you spread it out so all the lines are going in one direction, just like I have here. Then once you've done that, then you get the back side of the trowel and you flatten out the ridges. You're not taking any thinset off the wall. All you are doing is just flattening out the ridges of the thinset, so that you get, basically what you're going to get is just a flat layer of thinset on the wall. And so, you know, you can't rush this. You need to make sure that you get an even layer of thinset. So this is one of the basic methods of installing glass paper-faced tile. So once you have your thinset spread, it's time to place some tiles on the wall. Now, what you need to do to achieve 100% coverage is, first of all, you get your tiles, your sheets of tile, and you put them in place. So what you're going to basically do is get a few sheets, you're going to put them in place, and then once you have the sheets where you want them, to achieve the 100% coverage on the back of the tile, what you need to do is use a beater block. Now, a beater block, you can buy them commercially, or you can just use a piece of flat wood, a piece of 2x4, anything that's flat. I usually use a small piece, and you put the piece of wood or beater block flat on the tile, and then you start tapping it with a hammer so that you're actually beating the tile into the thinset. And what this does is it pushes the tile flat and into the thinset, and making sure that all the tiles are set into the thinset. The use of a rubber float is not advised. The rubber float is not rigid enough, and it tends to move when you're trying to beat it with a rubber float. It tends to move the tiles. So the preferred method is to, what I'm doing here, use a piece of wood or a commercially bought beater block and beat them in place. You're not whacking the piece of wood, you're just tapping it and going over the entire surface of the tile and embedding the tile into the thinset. So what's the next step? Once you've got some tile on the wall, you want to start wetting the paper so that the water penetrates and soaks the paper and softens the glue that's holding the paper on the tile. Now you want to do this after about 15-20 minutes that the tile's been on the wall, maybe half an hour. You don't want to wait too long. And you don't want to wait till the next day. You want to do it the same day, because the reason you do this is so that, because you can't see the tile under the paper. So if you need to make adjustments, you need to get the paper off the tile while the thinset is fresh, so you can remove any tiles that might be cracked or chipped or broken or whatever. There might be something wrong with them. They might be misaligned. So you need to do this while the thinset is still fresh. If you wait till the next day, no adjustments can be made. Well, you could always pop out a tile here and there, but it's going to be you can't make any real adjustments to the tile. So you're just going to keep on wetting the tile and be patient until the water soaks through the paper, softens the glue that's that's holding the paper to the tile, and then you're just going to peel it off. Now I usually use a spray bottle, and then I'll go over it with a sponge if I have to, and you go back and forth, and you just keep on wetting it and waiting until the glue is softened enough that you can pull the paper off the tile. So you just got to be very patient with this, and once it's the paper's wet enough, you should be able to pull it off without too many problems. Some tiles might pop off, but you can just put some cement on them and put them back in, but usually it's not a big problem. Tile on the wall, you're going to wet it down, you're going to peel the paper off after 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, and you're just going to keep on installing tile. Then you're going to go through the process of installing some tile, wetting it down, pulling the paper off, and then clean it up, making adjustments, then move on to another section, etc., etc. You're just going to keep on going back and forth and doing this until your whole surface is done. Now, to cut this tile is I'm actually not going to show how I cut the tile in this video, but you just use a wet saw with a good blade, and usually there's not too many problems cutting the tile. Just run them through the saw and cut them to whatever size you need them. There's also a tool that you can use. It's like a nips. It's got like 2 little wheels on it that you can use to snap the tile, but that doesn't leave a really clean cut. So anything that you need to get a precise cut with, you're probably going to have to do with the wet saw. Like any other tile, really, you're just going to use a wet saw to cut the tile. If you're having a problem with the sheets sliding down because they won't stay in place where you put them, a little trick that you can use to hold them up while you're working is to get some brads or some little finish nails, poke them through the paper between the grout lines, and just tap them into place just enough so that they'll hold the sheet up. Then you're going to get the sheet in place, and then you do that, and that'll hold the sheet from sliding down. It's like hanging, almost like hanging the tile. And then once the thinset has set a little bit, then you can remove them and just keep on going with the process. So once you got all your tile set, you're going to let it set at least overnight, and then it's time to grout. But before you grout, you want to make sure that the face of the tile is clean, because when you wet the tile with and take the paper off, the adhesive that was holding the paper to the tile can leave some residue. So you just want to make sure you clean that off completely and there's no residue left on the tile before you grout it. So once you're satisfied that that's done, then it's time to grout. Now, some glass manufacturers do not recommend the use of sanded grout because the sand in the grout can scratch the surface of the tile. So before you grout, you want to just check and make sure that you're using the right kind of grout. Some manufacturers allow the use and they actually recommend sanded grout, others do not. And this is one of those glass tiles that needs unsanded grout. It's actually written in the instructions that come with every box of these tiles. Usually instructions do come with the tiles when you buy them, these glass tiles. And they recommend the use of unsanded grout. So how do you grout the tile? Like you would grout any other mosaic tile. You're just going to use the trowel on a low angle, pressing the grout into the grout lines, going over the surface of the tile at a very low angle multiple times so that you fill all the joints completely. And then once you've the grout lines are filled, you're satisfied that they're filled, you're going to go with the sharp angle over the surface of the tile, taking off all the residue. Then you're going to, once you get a section done, you're going to check it, and a lot of times, once you've done grouting a section, it might be ready to start washing the tile off and getting, working on the grout line. So, you're just going to check that the grout is ready to be washed off and start cleaning the tile with water. you have a section of your tile grouted, it's time to clean it off. And what you want to use is clean, cool water and a grouting sponge, and you're gonna wash the tile. You're gonna, go back and forth, go in circular motions, go up and down, any way you need to go, and you're gonna work on the grout lines until you get them nice and smooth and all even. And you're just gonna keep on washing it, doing this process, and then if you need to, if you see any voids, you're gonna, get some grout and fill in the voids, and you're just gonna basically work on the lines and clean, get the grout the way you want it. You're not going to really worry about how much haze is on the face of the tile. You're just going to get the grout the way you want it, and you're going to keep on doing this until you got the whole area that you're washing just the way you want it. Now you got the surface of the tile and the grout lines just the way you want it, and there's a lot of haze on it because you haven't been really working on trying to get the tile clean. You've basically been trying to work on the grout lines to get them just the way you want them. So now it's time to clean most of that haze off. So how do you do that? Well, the way I do it is this: you rinse your sponge off, and then you put your sponge on the tile and you pull the sponge in one direction. You flip the sponge over and do it again, just in one direction. You don't want to go back and forth. You just want to get a clean sponge, go in one swipe, flip the sponge over, another swipe, and then keep on repeating this process. The reason you do that, if you go back and forth with the sponge, you take off the haze going in one direction, and then when you pull it back in the other direction, you're putting it back on. So if you keep on doing this way with a clean sponge, you're going to get 90% of the haze off the tile, and it's going to come fairly clean. And so that's how I do it to get the surface of the tile relatively. Now once you've got all your tile grouted and cleaned, it's time to caulk. Now with a glass tile, usually when you got it all cleaned off and wash it off, you're going to buff it with a rag or some paper towels, and that's going to clean any residue, grout residue that might be on the face of the tile. But you want to make sure that the that the face of the tile is dry and it's got a dry haze on it, and then you can just buff it off with a rag. Usually comes pretty clean. It's not much of an issue. So now once that's done, it's time to caulk anywhere there's a change of plane. So that would be any corner. And what I usually use is a latex, siliconized latex grout. I don't like to use silicone because it's just too hard to work with. So what you do is you get a bead of caulk where you're going to go when you need it. You press it in with your finger, and then you get some clean water and run your sponge along the caulk line, and just clean it off, and you leave a nice clean bead of caulk. So that's basically how I caulk it. Once you're all done, this is what you should have. That is actually a color matching caulk. When it dries, it'll be the same color as the grout, but that's basically the backsplash.